Dude, did you see the new game that came out? Yeah, it looks sick. I'm installing it on my PS4 right now. Yeah, I think it has multiplayer, so we could play it together if you bought it. Alright, cool. Later, man. Bye.
Wow, this game is brand new and it's broken already. I've never seen this before in a game. Well, to the bin liner it goes. What? No Man's Sky is fixed. Every problem's gone? Well, paint me surprised. I'll check it out later. Hello? They fixed Cyberpunk. Every problem. It's playable now. No, I'm not gonna buy the DLC. No, it's not happening. I don't think they're ever gonna fix Redfall. Whenever I start making a video like this, my number one priority is to provide a balanced point of view. Both sides are very important to look at when talking about something this wide in scale, but my god, this really pisses me off. Video games. I like them, maybe a little too much. But being around the block as a hardcore gamer, I've seen this little side hobby that you used to get made fun of get turned into a multi-trillion-dollar business. And with big businesses come shady practices. I'm looking at you, Apple side nets. From the biggest developers in the world to the smallest basement devs trying to get at least one person to play their furry yiff party game. Screw 16. Now you're probably wondering where I'm going with this, so let me spin the wheel to figure out which thing I want to touch on first. Yeah, that works. Man, I'm definitely the first person to talk about this, so let me try to word it at least a little differently so I can sound original. There's always going to be errors that need to be corrected. Small things like texture issues and collision problems can usually be fixed with a day one patch, or at least within the first week of the game being out. But then there's larger things like save corruption issues, unpassable missions, or entire areas just not loading in general. These usually take a little bit more time in the oven to be corrected. But then there's issues that shouldn't have even existed before the game was released. When all these issues fit together into one giant mess, what happens? You've been waiting for me to say its name. Cyberpunk. Who would have guessed it? It's not like I spun the wheel in front of your face or anything. You don't need me to tell you how this game launched. Anyone who remotely touched a video game in the last 5 years knows how bad it was. The Play Sony station did the first console moderation I think I've ever seen on a AAA game, and banished the game from their store. The launch was so bad the then joint CEO and co-founder of CD Projekt, Marcin Avinsky, made a 5-minute video explaining that almost all the problems were caused by the last-gen port of the game. Not having enough time before the final release window of that year, they gave every version of the game the green light. Here was their first big mistake. While the game was missing a lot of what people expected out of it, most people couldn't even play the game. It's not like ports of video games have ever been delayed before, while the other versions of the game were already released for both last gen and next gen. And here's the next problem. While this is just a little bit speculative and definitely not 100% true or something, I have a sneaking suspicion that they didn't care. CD Projekt, the main company of CD Projekt Red, wanted the game out on a certain date. No exceptions. They wanted to run people's pockets of all their Cromer, and maybe if the game sold well, they would update it in the future. Wait, a game that sold well, that was missing all the features that were promised? Where have I heard that before? Urethra! I knew I'd seen this somewhere before. As far as I can recall, and I'm probably wrong on this, but No Man's Sky is the first game that I remember doing this. All the way back in 2016, a little indie game was made by a small team called Hello Games. The company was co-founded by Grant Duncan, Ryan Doyle, Dave Ream, and the one that everybody knows, Sean fucking Murray. At its first announcement, the main point that was being shown was everything is procedural. Planets, galaxies, animals, everything. And even today, that is mostly correct. While most of the problems with Cyberpunk was the unplayability of the game mixed with some lackluster features, No Man's Sky was playable, but it didn't have any of the features people were looking forward to. Yes, everything was procedural, which looked cool, but most of the planets were too similar to feel different, and the animals ended up looking like, well, I'm sure you can get a picture by looking at this picture. No multiplayer, no buildings, bad generation, and plenty of other major things that were shown in the trailer were not available at launch, leaving a sour taste in people's mouths. IGN gave it a 6 out of 10, which I'm actually really surprised about, but I hate IGN, so their opinion is completely irrelevant here. There isn't actually a whole lot of background on why the game was released in this state. Sean Murray did a few interviews talking about how the game was overhyped to be this great thing, and how game direction changes so things will get removed before the game comes out, which is completely understandable until you see that the shit that was left out of the game was shown to be there in the trailers. Once again, I might be mistaken, but I have an unwavering certainty that my viewpoint is undoubtedly accurate. The 4 CEOs of Hello Games decided that they are starting to run out of funds to create their vision. So they set a quarterly window to have a playable but lackluster version of the game that they wanted to create ready for the public. If the game sells well, they can always add the stuff that they showed in the trailer later. And hell, they'll even get praised for fixing the game in the future. Wait, fixing the game in the future. Why is that making my brain itch when I hear it? Oh yeah, the video topic. My fault. In the last decade, gamers, elite and casual, I feel have had our standards lowered. Praising developers for, end quote, fixing games, when in reality, the game should never have been like that in the first place. Well, yes, it's great that the developers of these games are correcting their mistakes for the most part. It's also allowing them to repeat the cycle. As long as the game is eventually restored to what it was advertised to be, most people who see their next release will be hyped again and less wary of something bad happening. The praise should not be earned through the repetition of fixing games that shouldn't have needed to be fixed if the proper time and management was given to the developers. Praise should be given to the games that are slow roasted with plenty of time and care put into them. People wonder why Baldur's Gate 3 took almost every single award at the Game Awards. It's because it took those poor motherfuckers 23 years to make this damn game. If I had 2 decades to work on anything with complete creative freedom and it didn't come out exactly the way I planned it from the start, I would probably Logan Paul Forrest myself. So while people are clapping their hands and feet together at CD Projekt Red for fixing a game that's been in development hell for the last decade, I can understand why. The hype around this game was fucking huge. I was pretty excited for Cyberpunk after seeing wholesome Keanu Chungus Reeves at E3. And I'm not saying that the breathtaking guy was staged or anything, but it absolutely was. All the publicity and shows at E3, it's really CD's own fault for hyping this whole game up just to deliver Radical Heights the RPG, which ran as well as trying to run Crysis on fucking DOS. But shit, it sold well, which is probably why it got fixed. Let's look at my hypothesis on why this is 100% the case. Here we're going to look at 2 games, our aforementioned Cyberpunk 24/7 and Jesus, there's a lot of these to choose from. Anthem. We're going to look at the cost to produce and market these games totally, and then figure out how much they made in the first year of the game's launch. Through its whole development cycle, Cyberpunk costed CD Red 3 years of planning and subsequently scrapping of the game's plot from 2013 to 2016, or 4 or so actual years of developing the game. 2016 to 2020, and $40 million just to develop. After searching around and getting an average number, I roughly got a whopping $396 million for sponsors and advertisements, along with the E3 events and publicity shit, leaving them around $456 million in the can. Since the game shit the bed at launch, around 30,000 people refunded the game, but still a massive 13.7 million people, including me, who kept their game. After returning a casual 2,112,62 rubles, that leaves Cyberpunk 2077 with a gross revenue of roughly $800 million, surpassing their previous and much higher quality Witcher 3 by quite a lot. I keep the stats over here for a comparison. Anthem. I only know one person that actually played this, and then they went on the a minor, so you know this game is goated. Anthem took a casual 7 years to be conceived, mid-2012 to 2019. I couldn't find any numbers on how much it costed them, but knowing EA, it was probably a lot of money on promotion alone. So we'll go with a reasonable $600 million for total funds spent in development and marketing. Anthem then sold 78,000 copies in the US, around $4.6 million, and then accumulated $100 million in microtransactions, cause why the fuck not? But a slight caveat, EA was expecting 6 million copies to be sold by the end of March. The game came out in fucking February. Yeah, look where that got him. $104,680,000 roughly in the first year. A lot of money for sure, but I can guarantee that EA forced the main people behind Anthem to work on the most monotonous thing humanly fucking possible. Hey Gary. Hey buddy, how you doing? I know. So, I need you to do something for me. No. The guys over at EA Sports need some backup. The camera guy broke our green screen, so, No, please, Andrew, please, no. I need you to comp out every background of every animation for every character for the next FIFA game. Yay! That poor vice president. So the magic numbers never ever lie. You can see that a multi-billion-dollar company fumbled so hard that they just gave up on a game about 2 years after the game came out. Now you can see why a game like Anthem got thrown under the bus as soon as they found out they were a failure, versus a game like Cyberpunk that sold tremendously well. Now CD Red could have just taken that money, thrown out a couple small patches and called it there. But they did put in the effort to not only fix the game technically, but also add new things and things that were promised before launch. Do I think it's good that they did that? Yes. But do I think they or anyone else who does this type of thing deserves the praise that they got? No. These praises allow greedy publishers to saturate the market with jar jars and maybe fix them if the game sells well. But I've repeated this statement so many times, so I should probably wrap it up. If you like the videos I make and want to support the channel, maybe like and subscribe. If you're feeling extra evil, maybe check out my Patreon. I don't really feel like promoting at the start or the middle of the video, so I feel like right at the end is the best place to do it so you know what's going on. Alright, that's all I got for this one. Have a good one. Bye-bye.